his cinema is about the characters. They are strong, they are survivors. Even all the traumas, even all the worst things they went through, they know how to reinvent themselves. They know how to forgive. I love you, Pedro.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Take 5, the podcast where we take a cinema legend, take 5 of their films, highlight their excellence and range. My name is Austin Luger.
My name's Eric Martindale.
And today we are on part 4 of our Pedro Almodovar 5. Previously we have covered Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, All About My Mother, Talk to Her. Next week we're going to discuss The Skin I Live In. But this week we're talking about Volver. Volver is another family drama centered on female members of the family, which is a common theme that we've seen in the past few weeks. It primarily focuses on, should I try to get the characters' names right? You know what? It's going to be consistently off by the entire 5 now. Ramunda. We got Penelope Cruz and her sister, played by... I feel confident about Penelope Cruz and her sister, Soleil. They live in Madrid. Penelope Cruz's character has a daughter. And essentially you have a couple of different plots going on. The main two are Penelope Cruz and her daughter are kind of in a noir-ish plot line where her daughter, in self-defense, stabbed her father and have not kind of kept the body in an ice trunk. And also you have the other sister who is seeing the ghost of their dead mother. And hearing those two plots aloud, you probably have an idea of like what you think the visual sense is. Like maybe cant angles, dark shadows, and black and white feeling. And yet, despite the idea of a kind of classic noir setup and the idea of ghosts, it's actually his most colorful film of the 4 we've seen. And despite some very dark subject matter, it sometimes feels like the warmest one. Is that how you kind of felt when you got into this one?
Well, I think so. I think it probably is his most accessible film in a lot of different ways just for that. I think that, the themes that it talks about, or the things that are in the film just as features, like the ghost, the mother's ghost, and the sexual abuse, which is prevalent throughout the entire film. You get like little nuggets of these things, but never really dives in depth on everything, and everything sort of stays surface level in a lot of ways. Ultimately, yes, this thing happens and that thing happens, but ultimately this is a story about family, and in particular the Penelope Cruz character forgiving her mother, and then the mother learning to forgive herself.
Yeah, and I thought a lot about the previous film we covered, All About My Mother, with this one. And that one, especially since the tragedy happened so early in the movie and it's so recent for those characters, I always kind of saw that movie as about people who are like survivors or kind of surviving a trauma in real time. This feels like kind of very similar themes, but you're having people kind of... They feel, obviously it's still always a part of their life and part of their trauma, but they're so like removed from it that they're starting a second phase of their life in a way that they are able to have like more control over. I think that has like a lot of the warmth for me, is that you're getting to, for many of them, getting to have the moments they weren't able to have. The movie in a lot of ways is sort of a vignette in that it features some similar plot threads and theming that existed in previous films. For instance, this film literally repeats the same twist as All About Your Mother, or All About My Mother, in that the identity of someone's father in the film is revealed as a spoiler. Like if you were to know that would affect the way the movie is sort of plotting around these things. And All About My Mother, the fact is that his mother was transsexual, or his father rather. And then in this film, you find out that who her dad actually was too, and that's what the plot is kind of centered around. Which, if anything, I didn't necessarily think it was detrimental to the film, but for a long time, and this may make me seem crazy, okay, so just bear with me here. For a long time watching this film, I actually honestly thought that the mother was a ghost. So that is a big thing I wanted to talk about, because that is completely how the film wants you to think.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I kind of said in the intro as well. And I remember like when this film was being marketed, and I was talking about this with Sarah recently. Like it really was like playing at so many landmarks through this trailer over and over again. Don't know why this was the kind of the biggest U.S. hit for Almodovar, but
by far,
yeah,
by far.
And it's just like, and they always pitched it as a like family, not exactly a knee slapper comedy, but definitely a warmer family story with this supernatural element to it. And so when I first watched it, I thought she was a ghost, and then it's revealed that she isn't. And the second that happens, you go, "Oh, of course! Like that's not the world we're living in." And yet, I was totally buying it for about an hour and a half or so.
Yeah, but what's really weird for that, it's different to pull the trick on the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Like did the characters actually think she was a ghost?
Yes,
that's ridiculous. Sorry.
Which is
that's ridiculous.
Which is why I love that the one who would never believe she's a ghost is Penelope Cruz. And that's why she holds off seeing her for so long. I feel obviously there's history that they don't want to talk about, and it's kind of the harder element of forgiveness for them.
Yeah, but what's kind of weird about that, which we were talking about, and it's sort of her reason for coming back, is that the film doesn't actually give us that reason until it's willing to give us more than just the reason. Like, okay, for instance, let me give you an example. If the character enters a scene and the character is guilty, and we find out why the character is feeling guilty about something, typically what they're feeling guilty about and the reason why they're guilty will get resolved further on in the play or story or whatever. Mm-hmm. In this, we basically find out why she's back, what the way she feels and why she's back in the same exact scene, which is towards the end of the film, which kind of recontextualizes the whole film that came before it in a way that I don't know why I watched it and not just that scene. Like, because I mean, we talk about it here in the film, like this is a film that also, or we talk about this being the film, this is a film that also featured a daughter stabbing her father to death and then hiding him in an icebox. Mm-hmm. Okay, which really isn't necessarily, I mean, it's connected quite literally, but plot-wise, it doesn't really have anything to do with why the ghost is in the film. Like, that's a separate thing.
Yes, absolutely. And
so it's really bizarre. It's almost like two different films.
It is, and yet it almost has, like, the only really connecting thing is the way that they are being approached. Because even though you have the guy in an icebox, really there isn't this element of, like, it isn't a Hitchcock film. There isn't people going like, is it going to be discovered? Is it almost like a Telltale Heart kind of thing?
Sure.
No, it's just much like a lot of the ways we see throughout Almodovar films. It's trauma that is present, but it's about all that comes after it, I guess.
Yeah, but trauma's being a bit generous, isn't it? I mean, this guy was never meant to be likable ever.
Oh, no, yeah. It's more of the trauma of killing than...
Oh, just the actual physical killing. Because let's be honest, I mean, even Penelope Cruz herself, I mean, their daughter, presumed daughter, is the murderer here. Even Penelope Cruz herself, she is not sad her husband is dead at all.
No, and neither is the film. Like, the film becomes happier and brighter.
Exactly.
Yeah, the film does not care about him at all, which is, I guess, a lot of what goes into the lack of tension of him being discovered. It's more the fact that, like, it was self-defense. We all agree that should have happened, but still a difficult thing to go through, especially as we learn more about it. And I guess, like, to have that kind of approach towards a very kind of noir plotline kind of thing that would fit in a, like, double indemnity-like thing, and to have that kind of be with a ghost, before we kind of know the intentions of the ghost really just feels like a plot device, like as you typically would see in, like, also like 30s and 40s, like a Hollywood kind of thing. Like, the ghost is really here to be a device to teach you about, like, what's going on in hell to help you. And I guess the real twist is not only that the ghost isn't a ghost, but the ghost is also a character looking for solace in a way that is not just here to help a mortal. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I get that. I guess I would have preferred it better if we didn't find that all out in one scene.
Sure.
I mean, literally, the entire reason the film exists is revealed to us in a matter of, like, 5 minutes right before the movie ends. So that it felt weird to me. Like there was so much going on outside of this that I just wish it mattered more.
Mm-hmm.
Like Penelope Cruz like running the restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, I like that stuff. It doesn't really matter. The actual murder that happened in the movie, which is really creepy and weird, and then the actual disposing of the body. Yeah, again, it doesn't really matter unless you're going to say that she bonded with her daughter over that. But getting to at that sort of gets at why exactly. And I didn't dislike this film, but why exactly I thought that this film sort of had some problems where I had to somehow shake. And this is going to be spoiler. Obviously, spoilers are off. But it was the fact that the reason why Penelope Cruz's daughter kills the father is because he was trying to sexually abuse her, which is the same exact thing that Penelope Cruz's dad did to her. Both of them are victims of sexual abuse from their fathers. In Penelope Cruz's instance, she was impregnated by her father, and her daughter is her sister. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is such a unique coincidence like that it was really hard for me to shake it off, because the entire crux of which the reason why the ghost is here is to seek forgiveness for not believing her, Penelope Cruz, whenever she was young, that this thing was happening. And so she's there to seek forgiveness and pay a sort of penance for that. And it's just like I'm watching this scene unfold and I'm like, what? Like literally the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying that sexual abuse is not prevalent. I'm not saying fathers don't abuse their daughters. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying the sheer coincidence of it both happening to the same two people who live one generation apart, one of which is the daughter and sister of the other, just seemed a bit too convenient.
Yeah, and that kind of gets to the Almodovar plotting that we kind of keep like wrestling with the whole five. Like he likes it to be very clockwork. He likes to have it all kind of connected. And yes, that is probably like of all the kind of coincidences we talked about in the five, the biggest I guess red flag to me. But I guess it is like to have like Penelope Cruz be the one who knows all the secrets.
Right.
You know what I mean? And to have her be so focused on this film about kind of what she does in life after death is also the same kind of thing that she's wanting for her daughter, I guess, in a way. Mm-hmm. So it kind of is like a lot of like what she's doing with her own kind of like rebuilding and refocusing. It almost feels like she's doing that in a way to like prove that it can be done for her daughters. Well, it's a way to sympathize it where no one else in the film could.
Right, but neither can the audience because they don't know any of that.
Yeah.
And that right there is the crux of the problem for me. And I know I've said that a bunch, but it all ties to the same thing, is that we don't know any of this until right when the movie ends.
Yeah.
So the problem is I can't see the journey until the end. Mm-hmm. Like I have no idea. Like I can't tell. Yes, when you recontextualize everything, you can see the sort of path she's on, both of them. Oh, actually, all the characters, and why they're on their path between two characters that know all the secrets, Penelope Cruz and Penelope Cruz's mom. Everything they're doing makes sense and fits contextually, but not until we know the very, very, very ending of the film. And this isn't a plot twist like The Sixth Sense or something where you go, oh, I get why that makes sense now. That's not the game this film is playing.
Well, it's like actually the opposite of The Sixth Sense, where it's not a ghost.
Well, it's interesting I picked that one.
Yeah.
But yes, it is the antithesis in that sense, but also like where the recontextualizing everything sort of fits in the way the story is structured. We're aware we're not being told the whole story. In this film, we're not. Mm-hmm. We don't have any clue. So it just, I felt like it would almost work better if the first 10 minutes of the film existed first. Like in a really, really weird way. Or that a sequel to this film was made and then we see her go, or something else. I just felt like there needed to be more after that. I don't feel like you could bookend with a plot twist very well, at least not here. It didn't feel right, especially when the whole freaking film depends on that moment. So anyway.
It's funny because so I saw this in theaters 12 years ago, so I remembered that she wasn't a ghost, and I pretty much remembered the secret about the daughter, but I didn't know exactly what the ghost needed to ask forgiveness from Tyler Cruz. That was the part that I was still kind of waiting on. But watching it a second time, when you know that she isn't a ghost, the movie is a lot funnier because, she's hiding in the trunk of the car. It's so not supernatural.
Well, right. Yeah.
It's really kind of funny because there's no CGI. There's no oh, where did she go kind of thing. No, it's treated in a very, I don't want to say religious, but in a very more superstitious kind of way where someone would believe in ghosts or leave out candles for a ghost kind of thing. But the ghost is hiding under a bed or hiding in the trunk of a car. And the audience knows this. And you assume it's because you don't know the mythology, or is it more of a
right.
Beetlejuice kind of thing where certain people could see her? Okay, no. It's just a woman who faked her death and is trying to connect with her family again.
Yeah, it's the most. It's also the inverse of Royal Tenenbaums in that regard, and that he is pretending he is dying, but to reconnect with family. But another thing about this is the only thing to me that was actually fun to recontextualize, knowing that she isn't a ghost, is the beginning of the film when they visit their aunt. Because that seems very, very confusing to me. And I was like, is there something I'm not getting in the translation here? Is she acting like their mom is still alive, even though we know that the mom is dead? And then, of course, it's all intentional because the mom is visiting her because the mom isn't dead. And she's talking about her like she bakes her food or someone's running. How is she getting up the stairs and running on the exercise bike or biking on the exercise bike? She's old and she's infirmed. Oh, she says she puts that out for her sister. Well, we know that her sister is Penelope Cruz's mom, and we know she's dead. So how can that be possible? So it is kind of funny in those bits and pieces like that. Just not so much. I wasn't in terms of the actual moment to moment plotting and the characters' arcs. It was weird. It was weird to me that the ghost was there. And then finding out it's not a real ghost, and then finding out why she was there so late. I don't know. At least one of the characters could have revealed that to me at some point. Maybe that would have, and maybe that would have ruined some of the intellectual integrity about all the scenes that came forward. But a family drama about a dead ghost is not a film that I care to invest in too much, and especially in the looking back and recontextualize. This isn't a murder mystery.
No,
it just felt weird. This is just a very weird movie.
It is, and it doesn't completely work for me either. But I wanted to talk about something that we both kind of mentioned at the top of the episode, which is this is. You called it his most successful film, and I referred to it as the biggest hit in America. Based on all the words we have said in the transcript of this episode, it doesn't seem that way. And yet, while watching it, it does. There's something about the tone of this one, and maybe it is that all the colors are so much brighter in this film than we've done before. It is Almodovar on his brightest color palette that he's putting on here. And, to see, the food looks delicious, the setup that she has in her kitchen and feeding the film crew just looks so warm and inviting. This is another kind of, upsetting things happen to people and they're building lives from it. And yet it was easy to watch, in a way that was very, it felt like a nice blanket on you. Do you have that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a very warm film, and it's a very watchable film, and all the scenes that are there are all fine and they all work. It's just you are wondering why they're happening. I guess that's the biggest thing for me. The characters are really well fleshed out too, and the acting is really good. So it's fun spending time with everyone. If that makes sense, I guess.
No, it totally does, because it's kind of what I
this could have spawned a TV show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because also, all the relationships between all the women of all generations is just so complicated and just always feels so truthful. And that they can get away with saying, aside from the large info dump that is needed in the film. So many of them, their relationships, you kind of understand from just the way that like they stand together in the room. Like there's so much like just the way the sisters interact that they don't need to do that cheap screen or anything of like, hey sister, we've been talking about this for years, we need to do this. No, it's very when one of them wants to go to the funeral, one doesn't. They both understand why the other one is doing that in a way that just felt so confident in the storytelling and the performances that it did, I guess, always feel like a world that felt really understood, even if the plot was messy sometimes.
Yeah. And in getting back to that exposure, this is definitely the most exposed, as far as exposure, I mean, like the most people saw this film of any of Pedro Almodovar's films. I mean, it's not even close. Like, I'm looking through the stats right here. This film grossed $85 million worldwide. These are not the type of films that do that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I understand that every movie that comes out now makes $100 bajillion, but they also spent that much money to make it and market it. This is, I mean, I would be surprised if Almodovar's next closest film made half that much.
Yeah, I'm looking up right now. In America, Volver is by far the biggest hit of $12 million just here in America. And, for a foreign film with, lots of sexual abuse history in it, that's really big numbers. The one close to that is Talk to Her, which is $9 million. It's kind of interesting that the ones that are the biggest are all ones that are the biggest Oscar films. Because Volver was up for Best Actress for Penelope Cruz, which was kind of a nice surprise for everyone. Not foreign film, but because then like Talk to Her, which is next, that got a screenplay win. All About Mother won foreign film, so that always like helps it a little bit, but still, it's kind of I do not know why this is the biggest one, whereas
it's so weird.
Yeah,
it's so weird that for whatever reason this one got it. And it's not like Penelope Cruz hadn't been already in other films of his.
Yeah.
So, because, I mean, that would be the thing that I point to the most. I mean, she was really hot around this time as far as her career is concerned. So I think that maybe it played something into it. But, I mean, Penelope Cruz is great in everything she's done. But didn't she just win an Academy Award right before this movie?
No, what she won it right after this for.
She won it right
Vicky
after
Cristina Barcelona.
Right. I couldn't remember if Vicky Cristina Barcelona was the year before or the year after. I knew it was somewhere right in there, right around the same time.
It was one of those things where like this happens to so many actors from different countries where they're big in their country and then they're immediately in like the dumbest films here. So like I think the year before she was in Sahara with Matthew McConaughey. Which is
you don't like Sahara, man?
It's a movie that is so bad that the author of the book sued the production company because he says this hurt the franchise potential of his series. Which is one of the weird lawsuits. Yep. Sahara's bad. But I think that this film, like, people saw her more as, because she's just so beautiful, Hollywood thought, okay, you're going to be, the
That's
sexy lady.
Do.
And this just kind of helped her, like, get a whole, like, different career. Unfortunately, she's still in, like, Zoolander 2 and such like that, but,
Well, she's getting paid for those films, so it's not like... It's not like I feel bad for her, but yeah, no, I see what you're saying. There's definitely an attempt to pigeonhole people that look the way she looks. I mean, there are, and it happens that Hollywood actually, one of the weird things, they don't necessarily discriminate on sex on. Because if you're a great-looking man, you're going to get the same crap.
Which weirdly actually does transition us well to next week, because Antonio Banderas, he was very good in early Almodovar films and had some complicated roles, including in films we didn't cover. Came to America. He was Zorro. He did, which is better than Sahara, the Mask of Zorro.
Hey, he was in Philadelphia.
That's right, he is in Philadelphia.
Yeah, he's his boyfriend.
He's in Spy Kids, so he did like the big Hollywood fare. And then, like so many other people, including, we didn't mention,
he did push some boots. He did Shrek. Like so many people.
He gets mine worth. And then next week we're going to be covering his return to Almodovar in a very, very not commercial movie called The Skin I Live In. But before I did, I forgot to mention that the woman who plays the ghost, Carmen Mora, I cannot say a single Spanish name.
Like that.
I'm terrible. It's never been fully reported on, but she was in so many early Almodovar films, including she was the lead of Woman on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown.
Yes.
But that was their last collaboration together, and her returning to an Almodovar film and, given a major role was seen as in a different kind of way of right now De Niro's about to work with Scorsese again. These are a huge combo decades later returning, and some people even credit the film's title, Volver, which means to return, as her being kind of part of that mix. And she's great in this.
Yeah, no, she's fantastic. She's a wonderful actress, which transcends the fact that she's speaking Spanish and I don't speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. But she has a very, very clever way of emoting, and she has a certain screen presence where when she is on the camera, your eyes are gravitating typically towards her. That's what works so well in Woman on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. It's because she really works as that sort of straight woman type of character, even though she's really not. She's crooked just like the rest of them, but she's the one we lean on. She's the one we look to. She's the one commanding the attention. And she kind of does the same thing here.
It's funny because essentially, like I mentioned, there's no CGI, so we have to believe she's supernatural just based on her performance.
Exactly. Well, exactly, and it worked. I thought she was a ghost. It's kind of interesting too because this film in a more serious way includes women on the verge of a nervous breakdown.
Yes,
I mean actual like lowercase, because there's all the women in this film, and there's a whole other character we haven't even talked about. Their friend who's dying of cancer.
Oh, Christ! We haven't done the whole plot line. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's but again, why? I mean, think about that. Why have we not talked about that plot line? I think it goes back to what we were talking about. Is I just don't see where it mattered all that much. Mm-hmm. The scenes individually all work, but for what the actual story that the movie was trying to tell, I don't know if it played all that much into the ending.
It's definitely the messiest of his four so far in terms of plotting, by far.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Well, you said it's all about, lowercase women on the verge of a nervous breakdown. It is also all about their mother.
Yes.
So
it's kind of weird. I mean, it pulls actors from the other movies. It has themes that sort of work in all of them. It just didn't. And this is the one, if you're doing a 5 on Almodovar, this is the film you kind of got to pick because it's his most renowned. No, not renowned, but it's most famous in terms of at least its exposure. Mm-hmm. And oddly, so far, my least favorite.
Me too.
Yeah.
But still glad I rewatched it because if anything else, it's a really pretty looking film.
Yes, it is. It's very pretty looking. It's certainly not a bad film. And I definitely don't want my money back, but it's just, it's just interesting how that sort of works out like that sometimes. So.
Did you watch it on, you rented it on Amazon?
Yeah, I rented it on Amazon.
I actually got my money back from Amazon recently because I rented a film and then found out it was dubbed. And I was like, I don't want to watch this. So I sent a little message saying can I have my $3 back? And the next morning they go, yeah, sure. I don't care. $3.
Amazon yeah. What does that mean to Amazon?
Yeah.
Well, my brother, got a PlayStation 4 bundle. The game didn't work in the bundle, so he told them, and they just shipped him a new PlayStation in the bundle. He's like, but it's just the game. You're giving me a free PlayStation 4. Yeah, well, it's fine. It was a gift from your brother, so just take it. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
We're going to Brooklyn. We're fine.
It's a $400. Oh well.
I once tried to sell some books on Amazon, and I give the books, and they go, "Here's store credit. Don't worry about sending us the books, though. You're fine." I go, "This is the weirdest site." Anywho, Amazon, thank you for being a sponsor this week, as always.
Yeah, exactly. Amazon doesn't need sponsors. I made the joke. It's why does Amazon even advertise?
Yeah, that's fine.
Goofy. That's goofy. Waste of money. All right, sorry. 5-minute tirade there.
Anywho, we'll be back next week with the film we mentioned, The Skin I Live In, with Antonio Banderas. It's going to be very, very different than the last 4. I am nervous about rewatching it, and I am also excited about it as well. Until then, you can go to thearcmore.com, leave a comment on this movie or any movie we've covered just to kind of be part of the conversation. Love to hear what you thought. While you're there, check out some other podcasts, including The Immortals. We are off this week because of Thanksgiving Day scheduling, and we record those early. But we'll be back next week with a horror film called Audition and a horror TV show called Duck Dynasty. And that's a show I watched. Also check out Ad Absurdum, a really fun podcast where two lawyers talk about real-life implications and pop culture. Where else can we find you, Eric?
Constant Aversion's my YouTube channel, and keep looking out for that Twitter.
I was about to ask, because we had a week off for Thanksgiving as well. People were like, was this the time? Was him, bored during Thanksgiving, the time where he signed on to Twitter?
I'm warming up to it.
Warming up?
You can't rush these things.
You really can't.
Yeah.
Speaking of Twitter, we're at the Immortals Pod. And special thanks to Adam Lord for all the great music, especially like the intros he always makes to this show. So we'll be back next week. My name is Austin Luger.
My name's Eric Mungo.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.